Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Unconditionally Dynasty. A few months ago, I put out a video about my tips for having hard conversations, and in that video I alluded to some conversations that I've had to have. I wanted to come and share with you guys one of those hard conversations, and just to lay everything out there, it has to do with sexual harassment in the workplace. So if you want to hear this story, stay tuned. Okay, so I have worked in a high school for the last 2 years as a college advisor. So I'm not a counselor and I'm not a teacher. I am a college advisor. So I meet with students. Well, I used to meet with students one-on-one and advise them on the college going process, essentially. As a recent college graduate working in any type of professional setting, it is very difficult to establish yourself as a professional individual, as an adult, as someone who's worthy of respect. And I can say that I definitely dealt with a few circumstances where people would think I'm a student, which I didn't blame them, you know, like don't crack, you know what I'm saying? So it's okay that they thought I was a student, but I made sure that in every circumstance I presented myself like a mature adult, whether I was putting on events, whether I was speaking one-on-one with the students, whether I was speaking in front of a classroom or in front of an auditorium full of people, or one-on-one with a teacher that I ran into in the teacher's lounge or in the hallway. I made sure that I presented myself and conducted myself like an adult, like a mature adult who is worthy of respect. So let me just get into the story before I start going off on tangents. Basically, the circumstance happened with the resource officer at the school. So if you don't know what a resource officer is, there are police officers who are stationed inside schools to help with whatever happens, whether it's a fight, whether it's a drug problem, whether it's whatever it is. That was the position of the person in my school. He looked younger because, like I said, black don't crack, but he has a daughter who is about 22 or 21, and I am 24. So he's old. So basically what happened was this guy had made comments before to me that I wasn't really comfortable with, but I didn't feel like I had any voice to say I wasn't comfortable, because it was things like pet names like baby, sweetie, and a lot of people use those as terms of endearment, and they're not intending on making you feel uncomfortable or, you know, trying to make a pass at you or anything like that. So he would call me baby. He would, you know, like, oh, how you doing, baby? And things like that. In the black community, that's not that strange. So I took everything with a grain of salt. I know that I didn't really like him calling me that, but I just left it alone, and it didn't happen too many times to where I felt like it was an issue. But I will say that that's a little bit of background. He had never blatantly said anything disrespectful to me. We had a pretty good work relationship. He would pop his head into my office every so often, every few weeks, every month, and just check in, say, hey, whatever, like, you guys are doing a great job, whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. There were times when I would catch him looking at me a certain way that made me feel uncomfortable. And last year with my co-advisor, she definitely expressed to me comments that he would make towards her, but none of those comments were ever made toward me. So this year would just be the baby, sweetie, and all the other stuff. So I was like, all right, like, I can deal with that. One day in particular, I was walking down the stairs. He was coming up, and I think I said, hi, you know, so-and-so. And he was like, I hate that I don't remember the exact phrase, but he said something with the word sexy in it. Like, I don't know what it was, but he called me sexy. And he said it in a tone where my spirit was troubled, okay? My spirit was troubled. And I was so taken aback that I couldn't say anything. And it was in such a time and a space where we're passing each other. So like, is it even worth it for me to turn around and say something? Like, you know, he was gone in a flash. So he was going up the stairs, and all I remember saying was like, no. But I said this probably like 3 seconds after, so he's not even within earshot anymore. And I was just like, no. I didn't know what else to say. I was not expecting it. All I know is that it did not make me comfortable. It upset me, and I went back to my office and was just like, I don't want to leave this office. I felt very unsafe in my school. I will say there was another circumstance going on with someone else in my school, but it wasn't harassment. It was just, I didn't really want that person to see me. So it was a very hard time in the weeks that followed, because I would peek out of my office to see if anybody was there before I left to even just use the bathroom or to go call a student out of class that I needed to meet with or whatever. All I know is that I definitely did not feel comfortable in my work environment. I thought a lot about what time I left and what was going to be going on in the school, who I was likely to run into. I was strategizing left and right. I had kind of purposed in my mind that I wasn't going to say anything about it until I talked to another person in the school. It was obviously bothering me, so it was something that I talked to my co-advisor about and I talked to my friends about, but for some reason, something told me to talk to this one person at my school, someone in sort of a secretarial position, someone who we had gotten to know each other over the last year and a half that I had worked there. And I felt comfortable talking to this person about, personal stuff. So I told her what happened, and I told her how it made me feel, and she was like, that is not okay. He should not have said that to you. When are you gonna talk to him? And I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna say anything to him. I just wanted to vent and tell you what happened. And she was like, no, you have to talk to him, because for one, she knows the guy pretty well. Well, based off of what she knew about him, she did not believe it was his intention to make me feel that way. And I agreed. And I think that's also why I felt all right not addressing it, because I didn't feel like it was malicious. I didn't feel like it was, that harmful, but I do know that it did not make me feel okay. And I wanted to avoid him at all costs after that happened. So she hit me with this thing that I will never forget, and I just kept playing it over and over in my head. She told me that I was Ariel in The Little Mermaid. If you're familiar with the Disney movie The Little Mermaid, she said that I was Ariel and that officer was Ursula, and he took my voice. Was I gonna let him keep my voice, or was I gonna go and get my voice back? And I was like, ooh. So that kept playing over in my head. She would call my office because she was 2 floors away from me. This woman would call the office. If I was meeting with the student, my co-advisor picked up and she was like, Miss So-and-so wants to talk to you. And I knew exactly what it was about. She kept badgering me. I want to say bothering me, but it was for a good cause. She kept bothering me about talking to him. She's like, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? And I'm like, no. And then, so I had purposed in my mind that I was going to do it, but then I was looking for the perfect opportunity. And when you're looking for the perfect opportunity, it never comes, especially when you're not really looking for the opportunity, because I was so nervous. I just want to take a quick pause here for all of you who may be thinking that this wasn't a big deal. He did not touch me. He didn't blatantly call me out of my name, but he made me feel uncomfortable. And I don't care what it is that happens to you. I don't care what someone does, what someone says, how little you may think it is, how little other people may say it is. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, then you have the right to address it. And don't let anybody tell you any different. So for me, this was something that made me really uncomfortable and something that I wanted to address, but I was just so nervous and I was so scared and I didn't want him to be uncomfortable. And that is what, like going back to my tips for hard conversations, if you have not watched that video, you should pause this, go back and watch that video, come back to this, like both videos. I'm just kidding. Anyway, something that causes me to wait to have conversations with people sometimes is me just thinking that I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I know they didn't mean it that way, and I want to keep the peace. I want harmony at all costs. So anything that seems like it's going to ruffle feathers, I would rather just be uncomfortable than make the other person feel uncomfortable in any way, which isn't good, especially when it comes to something like this. So Finally, one day, I was up putting flyers around the school for an event that was coming up, and I saw him talking to some students, and my heart was pounding. And I was like, it's now or never. So I was looking at him and I was putting up the flyers, and he had just parted ways with the student. And I was like, Officer Blue, whatever his name is. And so I literally had to yell, because if I did not yell, he would not have heard me and I would never have talked to the guy. He was like, oh, hey, what's up, baby? Or hey, what's up? Whatever he called me. I was like, hey, so something you said the other day made me feel uncomfortable and I wanted to address it with you. And he was like, what? Oh my gosh, what did I say? And I told him, I said, I don't remember if I remembered then exactly what he had said. This is probably a week and a half or a week after the encounter happened. I think it was a week. And he's like, what did I say? Oh my goodness. I was like, you said something with the word sexy in it, or whatever I said to him. And it made me feel uncomfortable. And he was like, oh my goodness, well, it was not my intention. I'm so sorry that I made you feel that way. Immediately, even as I was talking to him, my nerves started calming. And especially when he responded, like, it was all good. He was like, I did not intend to make you feel that way. I'm sorry. I respect you. I love what you do here. And I hope that this doesn't affect our relationship going forward. But I would, I want you to know that I'm sorry and it won't happen again. He also said, oh, I just call things how I see it, which I'm like, but he was overwhelmingly apologetic and, just expressing to me that he did not intend for me to feel uncomfortable by his words. And I was like, oh no, we're all good, And after that, I was great seeing him. I was like, oh, hey, what's up going? Like, we weren't chummy, but I did not feel uncomfortable anymore. And having that conversation with him empowered me. When I tell you it empowered me, I was like, wow, that was okay. And it was, I don't know. It was just amazing. I felt really empowered afterward. And I would just encourage you, ladies, men, whoever you are, if anyone addresses you in such a manner that makes you feel uncomfortable and doesn't make you feel safe in your work environment, or makes you feel little and small, when you know that that's not who you are, address it. Address it, address it, address it. I don't care how small it is. I keep saying that, but I want to stress that it doesn't matter. Don't let someone else tell you that it's not a big deal. If it's a big deal to you, it's a big deal, and it's worth bringing up. It's worth addressing. A lot of times people don't mean things in a mean way, but even if they did mean it in a mean way, and it could be a confrontational type deal, with wisdom, I still think you should address it. Yeah, so there is my story time for the day. We had a great relationship going on in the year, and I didn't have to, check the premises before I left my office. I didn't have to walk around all tense and uncomfortable. And now going forth, I know that I'm gonna handle that situation differently. It could be the same situation. It could be worse, God forbid. It could be a little bit not as bad. Either way, I now know that I can address this sort of thing, and I don't need to just let anybody talk to me anyhow. And I feel like if I have to ever do something like this again, I will definitely speak up faster than I spoke up this last time. Because imagine if I had waited 3 weeks, it just wouldn't have had the same effect. And so it's important to be able to address things soon after they happen, just to avoid that period of time where you do feel uncomfortable. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So I just want to empower you all to use your voice. Don't let Ursula take your voice. You better take your voice back. Comment below if you've had similar circumstances and how you dealt with them, how the person took the feedback that you gave them, and whether your situation changed after that. Comment below any questions you have. Maybe I can make a follow-up video. Any tips that you guys have. And any other videos that you would like me to do. Also, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. But I just want to empower you all. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. There's a lot more hard conversations that I've had that I will probably let you guys in on in the future. But for now, this is it. I love you. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.